Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We've got a ton going on here at Spirit Blade Productions and Christian Geek Central, including our in-depth Bible study for geeks, movie, game, and other entertainment reviews or commentary, live streams, Christian geek news, original audio dramas, and tons more. And on top of all that, you can become a Spirit Blade insider with an influential voice and get access to exclusive content and rewards. It's your involvement as a patron that will keep all of this going and growing, so I want to thank you for your consideration in that. For more information, please check out our Patreon page through the link below at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. Thanks for listening. Well, my editing skills are crap, but can the same thing be said about Batman, Soul of the Dragon? Stick around and find out. Hey, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of Batman, Soul of the Dragon. The synopsis on IMDb reads, in the 1970s, a missing teacher of martial arts is the subject of a quest by his devoted and brilliant but distant students, who include Batman. I'm going to try and keep this pretty short. I did not enjoy this movie. It is based on an original script, so unlike most, if not all, of the previous DC animated movies, it is not based on a well-known story previously published in comic book form, which is really puzzling to me. We still haven't seen Batman Nightfall. That's worth 2 movies, him getting his back broken and then coming back. Maybe even 3 movies are in there somewhere. Let's see, what else? Batman, The Long Halloween. So that's 3 movies right there. Batman, or Speeding Bullets, the Elseworld story, where Superman lands in Gotham and is adopted by the Waynes, and he witnesses them get killed and grows up, so he becomes Batman, except he has Kryptonian superpowers. You know, granted, they have adapted many of the best or most well-known Batman stories from comic book history, but I am puzzled as to why they didn't adapt one of those other ones that I just mentioned instead of doing this. It is basically an attempt to, I think, I can't know the creator intent, but I think it's an attempt to create a Batman animated movie in the style of a 1970s action movie, specifically 1970s kung fu movie, maybe with some 1970s spy movie thrown in there. It seems as if one character, Richard Dragon, I don't know if he has a basis in the comic books, really seems based, at least in this movie, how he's represented, on Bruce Lee. Like the people at DC animated movies really wanted to make an animated Bruce Lee movie and justify it by putting Batman in the cast. I kid you not, when I was watching this movie, I felt like it was, in many cases, well, first of all, it's an ensemble cast. Don't go into this really thinking that it's primarily a Batman movie. It's another one of those Batman animated movies, like Batman, what was it called? Arkham something. There was a Suicide Squad movie where they put Batman in the top, and that was just to sell copies. It was really about the Suicide Squad, and Batman is a character that comes and goes in little spurts throughout the movie, but it's really about the Suicide Squad. And that's the same case here. It's about this group of martial arts students, Bruce Wayne being among them, and Bruce Wayne gets a ton more screen time than Batman. You might think that's not a big deal, you know, but it felt like, since it was a 1970s, like a, what do you call it, a period piece, 1970s period piece, we're getting a version of Batman, a version of Bruce Wayne that is just very different from what we've seen in the comic books. Unless you were reading the comic books in the 70s, maybe it was something like that, I don't know. So it was just weird. The music the whole time was going for a very 1970s vibe. Some of the cinematic things that they were doing, the action shots, freeze frames, and different things like that were all evoking 1970s action movie filmmaking. And so it felt in many ways like a spoof of 1970s movies. I think that you are not going to have a problem with those elements if you like 1970s action movies, 1970s kung fu movies. But I actually dislike the 70s aesthetic. I'm not even a big fan of the resurgence of the 80s aesthetic, but the 70s aesthetic I really dislike. And I did not know going into this that that's what this experience was going to be. I will say that as I tried harder and harder to set that aside and just take in the story for what it was, it's not like this story that I found really terrible. It just also wasn't a really Batman-focused story. And so you had those two elements together of it being about these martial arts students, Bruce Wayne being one of them, who all studied under the same martial arts master. And there's flashback sequences like there would be in a 70s kung fu movie of modern day, and then them learning together as students of their master and stuff. They're on this quest to find out what happened to their master, what happened to this relic that he was protecting, that was going to keep the world from being destroyed by some dark, evil god from another world or whatever. Anyway, I think the story in many ways had a serious tone, but it's felt kind of tongue-in-cheek with all of the 1970s stuff that was so strong. Again, it really felt spoof-like to me, so I really had trouble taking the story seriously, even when otherwise I think I could have, given just the nature of the story itself. I thought that the performances were all fine. It's not my favorite Batman voice, but I mean, I don't think they were going for a traditional Batman anyway. He sounded like serious and strong and stuff, but not quite as deep and grovelly as I kind of like in my Batman voice, you know. So it was just more of a standard tough hero kind of voice, which I think can be fine. That is a valid interpretation of Batman. It's just not the kind that I gravitate toward. As far as the visuals, DC movies, in my estimation, are known, or at least were for years, for really solid animation, really great animation, and maybe even early on, arguably raising the bar in animation. But I feel like for years they haven't been pushing themselves and raising the bar further and further. They've just maintained what has been a really great, solid quality of animation. I think that's probably still true here, but I think that compared to some of the more recent DC movies, like I think of Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, where there's so much spectacle and action and stuff going on, that coming from that to something like this, which is mimicking the very pretty mundane and practical look of a 70s action movie, you know, there's just not as much spectacle. There is some like mysticism stuff and magic that happens at some points, but it's not the spectacle that a number of other DC animated movies have been. Really, I think that the appeal of the visuals are going to be in the aesthetic choices they made to mimic, again, 1970s action and kung fu movies. Are there any themes in this thing that might be of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance? Maybe that could stimulate some worthwhile thought or conversation. I mean, not for anyone who doesn't like 70s action and kung fu movies. Am I hammering that point home enough? I think that those who don't like that aesthetic are going to be turned off to the point where they're not going to be picking up on any themes. But if that theme and aesthetic is a plus for you, or it doesn't take anything away from the experience, there does seem to be a theme of community, of not living life alone, of not being just a lone ranger, but realizing that we really need others. We really need to be around others and be in community with others. We're not meant to live this life alone. We're not meant to go through the struggles of this life alone. And I think that that is a temptation that we as geeks can fall into, despite the fact that we are meant to be a part of Christ's body, the church, the local church. And we can decide that we're going to just, even outside of a COVID situation like we're in right now as I record this, we can decide even at other times, I'll just watch church online, or I'll just, interact with online communities, when really we're meant to be living life alongside other people in person, serving with them, and just experiencing life together. And I think that that's such an important thing for our walk with Christ, and for the kind of vibrant life that we're meant to have. And so, even though this obviously isn't made from a Christian perspective, I think that that is a point that for us geeks can and should be well taken. Now, I have no idea what your tastes are in animated movies or anything else, but if I were a time traveler, I would go back in time and say, Peter, oh man, skip this one. You should at least watch a trailer for it or something. Maybe you'll get a clue, but it's going to conjure up a bunch of, it's going to spoof 1970s action and kung fu movies, and you have no interest in watching that. It's got way too little Batman. In fact, when all is said and done, Batman seems to be a supporting character to the stand-in for Bruce Lee in this movie. So, and you are not a fan of Bruce Lee either. This is not the movie for you. Stay far, far away. All right, this one is rated R for some violence. And that's it. Those are my thoughts for now. Would love to get yours in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, click that bell to stay connected. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review possible. You can find out about the benefits of becoming an insider over at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. And then, as always, I hope you'll join us soon over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.
Do you believe in the supernatural?
Download the Legacy Edition of Spirit Blade, a full past audio drama, for free at spiritblade.com.